It is a scam when you don't allow everyone to operate on fair terms.
We are the Robin Hoods of sports betting. We take something back from the rich bookies and enable our customers to beat them instead.
G'day everyone, welcome back to our Euros daily live stream, back again on the Trademate Sports Betting Podcast. Today we'll be looking at the fixtures tomorrow between Hungary and Portugal, the massive game between France and Germany. And we're actually also going to look at the three games on Wednesday. Yeah, that makes sense. Sorry, it's a bit hard with the time difference over here. So those games are Finland, Russia, Turkey, Wales, and Italy, Switzerland, because we won't be live tomorrow. So we will be covering 5 games today, which should be very, very exciting. As I said yesterday, please start sending through any questions you guys have, any comments you might have about today's play or tomorrow's play, anything you want to get off your chest throughout the stream, and we will get to them at all times. But like yesterday, joined by pro sports bettor at the bottom of your screen, Neel, Shah, and football tipster, statsman, guru, card guru, everything guru, George Gamble. How are we, fellas?
Yeah, not bad. I've got more names than Scarlet Pimpernel, I swear. That's just outrageous.
You've got more Twitters than them too.
Here we go. No, happy as always to be here.
I'm not going to lie, fellas. Not the greatest start to our live streams yesterday with a few of the results today. Scotland losing. There were no cards in that game either. You had Slovakia beating Poland 2-1, and then Spain and Sweden a 0-0 draw there. So I mean, I think
we're running a late service. If anyone's not sure, we're running a late service. Anything we say, the opposite.
I feel like, I mean, out of everyone, I probably got the closest yesterday with my little Sweden mug bet. Hopefully no one was following along because it would have lost.
I had Spain. I had to draw half time, Spain full time. So
yeah, it was looking good.
It was looking good, but yeah, only halfway there.
I had over 2.5 goals. Wasn't that far away?
Yeah, I know. I mean, the internationals they're tough, aren't they? We'll do our best every day to, I don't know, I guess to pluck out some value here and there, but they can be pretty unpredictable.
I mean, I hate to be one of those people that's like, oh, it's so close, land, because ultimately it lost. But that's the main thing, it lost. But no, I'm looking, like, if you look at the XGs today, for example, even earlier, Spain, they had over 2.5 goals in terms of XG on their own. And wow. Sweden missed from about 4 yards out, basically a tap in as well. So, you know, I think Spain must have had about 17, 18 shots or something like that. And Scotland earlier, I spoke to Neel, and Scotland had over twice the XG the Czech Republic had. They missed some absolute clear-cut chances as well. You know, on another day, these will go in, and you're laughing your way to the bank. But yeah, today, just I think the highlight was that Patrick Schick goal. I'm happy to lose a bet when there's a goal like that. Like, oh my word!
I mean, that was class. Yeah. Well, it's
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, you got to see it. It's goal of the tournament. I can't see anything beating that.
No.
Yeah. Okay. I'll have to watch it while you guys babble on about whatever you want to talk about today. Yeah. So we've got Frederick here. He's already sent in a nice little comment there. Under 2.5 in every match going forward. I mean, that would have come through. Yeah. How many times would that have come through this tournament so far? A couple of times, maybe half.
Yeah,
more. Yeah, it's more than that. I think if you're looking at it, that would come in. So out of, in fact, I'll just do it quickly for you now. 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 10 games played so far. That'd come into 3, 4.
There has been goals.
It'd come in 5 times. So it's literally half and half.
All right. Well, we'll see how that.
To trade that, I mean, that's also a good trading angle to have as well, because there's been a few that have gone over, like the Italy game, but that was 0-0 at half time, and it's a good way to trade it.
Yeah, well said. And then we've also got Jarnell. He's actually got a question for George. He says, George, do you go through all of the Bet365 prop markets in these Euro games, or is that not something you're looking into?
I think for me, the research alone kind of leads me towards where I want to be in. I think if you're going to go through every single prop market for the games in this Euros, you're going to be there all day. Like there's so many markets now, and it's good. You need to be wary of it because the amount of people I saw like, oh, look at all of these new things they've put on the bet builder section of Bet365. It's designed to take your money. That's what it's designed for. It just leads you astray. I think, oh, I'll add that on there because that's got to happen. And so for me, I've kind of got, I do a lot of handicapping. I do overs and unders, and then obviously I do my cards. And as I alluded to on the podcast yesterday, international tournaments for cards, there's just something that don't agree with me. I don't seem to get on with them. League football and club football is my bread and butter, but yeah, international football's a bit dodgy for that. So no, in answer to the question, a bit of a long-winded answer, I know, but I don't look at all of the prop markets if something stands out. So, as everyone knows, I like my fouls and free kick lines. And so that's kind of the limit I go to. But in terms of individual player shots, player tackles, there's a lot of people out there that could do it, but it's just not something that I tend to look into.
All right. Good start. All right. So what I'm going to do today, a bit different, is I am actually going to have the Trademate feed up for most of this day and just see if there's any money coming in on certain games for tomorrow. At the moment, I've just set up a preset for 24 hours here, so we'll see if any value bets pop up for any of the games tomorrow. At the moment, it's all just some Finnish game, I guess. If anyone knows how to pronounce the Finnish league, you're doing well. So put a few bookmakers there for you guys if you want to put some quick value bets on while we're doing the stream. But quick disclaimer, as always, I or no one else on this channel or today's video is a financial advisor. This is just educational content aimed at improving your knowledge about sports betting. There is a risk of losing money on betting, and what choices you make with your money, it's completely up to you. So be responsible. Game one we'll go through today, fellas, is Hungary versus Portugal. We're kicking off the group of death. Hungary playing host to Portugal. Looks like Hungary's star man, Dominic Szoboszlai. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. He'll miss this one, which is a big blow for the Hungarians, who are faced with the almost impossible task of making it out of Group F. They come up against the Euro's reigning champs, Portugal, who they essentially need a win here because it only gets harder from here on out with the likes of France and Germany after this one. The way we've structured it today, I believe, George, you've taken a deeper look at these two games, and Neel, the three later, but I'm sure I'll go to both of you throughout the stream. But I'll start with you, George. Hungary versus Portugal. What would you like to say about this one?
It's going to be an interesting one. Hungary, basically, according to everyone, just have absolutely no chance, and you tend to agree with them. And been drawn in a group with Portugal, the reigning holders of the Euros, France, current world champions, and then you've got Germany. Germany obviously solid as well. So yeah, I don't think anyone's given Hungary a chance to qualify. But in terms of an individual game, I do think this one's going to be a lot closer than people think. I think a lot of people are expecting Portugal to go there and hammer Hungary, but when you look at the sort of underlying data, no side has actually travelled to Hungary. Sorry, I should say this is being played at the Puskás Arena in Hungary. But yeah, no side's gone to Hungary and won by more than a single goal since Russia, and that was in a friendly back in 2017, around 22 games ago. And that includes Portugal, who've only won by a single goal. Hungary also on their home soil, they've scored in 18 of their last 22 home games. So they know where the back of the net is, but as you've already alluded to, and again, I'm not sure about the pronunciation of this player. I've been saying Szoboszlai, but I'm not sure how true that'll be. But it was only thanks to a 2-1 victory, from Szoboszlai, that was against Iceland in the final of a playoff that allowed Hungary to qualify for this. And Marco Rossi's had to deal with some serious injury problems kind of since then, and obviously the fact they've now got to find a replacement for Szoboszlai, because he's not recovered in time. And also another midfielder, Kalmar Jolt, was also ruled out, and it just creates more problems for them, really. And it's obviously not something that you want when you're going into the group of death. But as well as that, the last 3 home games they've had against Portugal, there's only been a single goal. So I do think this is going to be a lot tighter than people give it credit for. And looking into Portugal, as we know, like we said, they're the holders, and obviously this will be their title defence, if you like. And it could be the perfect opportunity for them, really, for them to kind of take initiative in the group, because obviously France take on Germany straight after. So it's good for Portugal to put down a marker if they can get the win, and obviously just get 3 points on the board. They've won 6 of their 7 previous encounters with Hungary and have never actually lost against them. And at least 3 goals have been scored in 4 of Portugal's last 6 fixtures, winning 4 of those 6 as well. They've not lost since going down 1-0 to France in the Nations League. And obviously, with France, there's no shame in that at all. Ronaldo, he scored 11 goals in qualifying for Euro 2020. Even though he's 36, he's just still absolutely banging them in for fun. He netted 29 times in Serie A for Juventus this season. They didn't have a great season themselves, but individually, he had a brilliant season. But yeah, as I've mentioned, they've got a great record against Hungary and managed to score exactly 3 goals against them in 5 of the pair's last 7 head-to-heads. But obviously recently, the last few visits, there's only been a single goal in it. And kind of looking at it as well in terms of sort of analysis, we know that Portugal just got an absolute embarrassment of attacking talent. Obviously, arguably the greatest footballer to have played the game in Ronaldo. But they've often been quite conservative in attack, despite all this talent. The likes of Jota, Bruno Fernandes, obviously João Felix, Ronaldo. But weirdly, they do often struggle to break teams down and find the back of the net. So, their last game, fine. They beat Israel by 4-0. But earlier this year, they managed just 1 goal, and that was against Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan, that's the sort of team you should be steamrolling, and they only managed a single goal against them. But they do tend to struggle against compact defences, given the fact that Hungary are missing, their star forward. I am kind of expecting them to sort of sit deep, try and frustrate Portugal and potentially hit them on the break and just try and get something from the game. So I do see it being quite a struggle for Portugal to break them down. And yeah, like I said, you look at the fact that the last 3 between these two in Hungary, there's just been a single goal. I do think it'll be another tight affair. But I do think the cream will rise to the top, and I think we'll see a narrow Portugal win for me. So Portugal to win and under 3.5 match goals, and that was at evens on Unibet. I thought that was a great shout.
Yeah, no, that doesn't sound bad at all. I like this comment we got from, what a name here, Mr. Handsome 3000. He says Spain was 1.36 today. Portugal is 1.47, and Spain faced a better team than Hungary. So Portugal to win must be good, right? And I guess my interpretation of why the odds of Portugal are a bit bigger than Spain's is because at least Spain have a bit more, I don't know, I wouldn't say attacking potential, but they have a lot more impetus. You know what I mean? Like they've got a lot more creativity, and they're happy to kind of put the foot on the throat a bit more. So there's more chance that Spain could get out to a decent lead over someone like Sweden. Is that the way you guys interpret this one?
I would say sort of the big factor in the price is Spain were playing at home and Portugal are playing in Hungary. So that is kind of factored in. I think sometimes that home advantage is maybe a little bit overstated, but that would be part of it. And I think what you're saying about Spain, and actually with Portugal, although they are they can be quite a defensive team. You saw in the Spain game, it's a kind of cliche, but there was no plan B. They just kind of kept going around in circles. Whereas with Portugal, they do have a bit of variety. They've got some variety on the bench. They've got players who can come in. They've got players who can shoot from long range. They have Ronaldo. They've got lethal finishers in that team. So when it comes to kind of breaking down a side, I think they've got that in reserve. So that's what I would say. So, but I think going back to Mr. Handsome's point, again, you take each game on its merits. When I looked at the Spain price, I did think it was quite short, but I wouldn't have been laying them either. I think fair play to anyone. I think Alex, you had Sweden, you backed them, but no one else I know did.
I do also think though that maybe in terms of the prices, there was a slight overreaction to the fact that coming into this one, Spain had netted 12 goals across their last 2 Euro 2020 qualifiers. And they were scoring goals for fun, playing well. So I do think there was a slight overreaction to that, and especially when we mentioned who Sweden had sort of played recently. So I think that could have been obviously combined with the fact they're at home. I think there was a slight overreaction, but they were definitely too low. There's no way I'd have backed Spain just to win the game at those odds.
What did Sweden close that in the end? Do we know?
I couldn't tell you if I wanted to, if I'm honest.
I'll have a look. See if I actually put out a little value bet out there. Probably not. Pinnacle closed at 9.5. So I mean, that's probably the best.
But
Yeah,
what
look
price
at-
did you put out there? What price did you
I got
see?
137. Have a go at this, fellas. Look at this edge. That's a 10% edge, fellas. I mean, look at that. That is incredible. Call me the
Amazing.
Sweden handicapper.
Unbelievable, Jeff.
I tell you what, the chat here is just going off. This is the greatest comment of all time. What's the difference between Ronaldo and time? Time passes.
Shankar, that's what Shankar.
Yeah,
He's the one who had 0-0. He's the only person in the world who backed 0-0 in this Spain-Sweden game. So
I
you can
like him.
bask in the glory of that.
I like him. Good stuff. And we had a question here from Jarnell. He says, I like Ronaldo shot lines. I think you tweeted a couple of Ronaldo shot bets, Neel.
Yeah, so actually, yeah, so this kind of going back to sort of George, not as keen on these prop bets, and I'm the exact opposite for this game in particular. But for kind of the same reasons that George has said, again, with Hungary not having Szoboszlai, again, that cuts out a huge amount of their sort of attacking force, but also a focal point and, someone who's going to create play. So they are going to be sitting deep. I mean, Ronaldo is Ronaldo. We know that. But he's chasing down this international record so that Ali Daei has. So I think he's got 104 goals. He needs 5 goals to tie the all-time record. No one's going to substitute him. Santos isn't going to dare sub Ronaldo off, especially in the first game. He might rest him. If Portugal, grab a couple of wins, and then the third game, keep him fresh. But at least for this game, I expect he's going to play the full 90 minutes. Looking at the stats on this as well. So he's in his last 20 internationals, averaging about 2.6 on target and 5.4 shots in general. And then also, without sort of delving into each game individually, but generally when he's come up against lower ranked nations, he does tend to get quite a few. Teams will kind of sit off him a little bit. He will take that opportunity. And again, if it ends up being a game like this Spain-Sweden game where Hungary kind of just sitting back and just kind of inviting pressure, he's going to be kind of shooting from all angles. He's going to have free kick opportunities. Could be a potential penalty. So I do like that. So I've gone for over one. So the lines are at 365. So it's over 1.5 shots on target. That's at 1.83, and then over 3.5 shots at 1.72.
Oh, okay, nice. They seem like quite big odds. I mean, I'm not much of a shot market fan, but it's not like I really bet it. But is that normal kind of odds, or?
I mean, it stood out for me, but at the same time, obviously, again, the bookies don't hand you money, so there must be reasons, that they're thinking.
You're doing it all wrong, then, Neel.
The bookmakers in Australia, you literally just go up to them and you say, "Can I have $20?" and they give it to you. It's weird.
No worries, mate. Yeah.
I'll move into Australia.
$500 in Sweden.
Yeah, exactly. They give you your money back if Sweden draw 0-0, so they pay it. All right, well, there's some bets there. I don't know if you mentioned any bets you're having in this one, George.
Yeah, I said Portugal to win and under 3.5 match goals evens.
I do like that.
That's right. All right. I mean, there's just loads of comments here coming in about France and Germany, so I feel like we better get onto this game. So Germany hosts the first of their 3 home games here, this tournament, against France. So they've got home games against Hungary and Portugal too. This is just a star-studded game, you'd have to say. You've got Germany with the likes of Gnabry, Werner, Sane, Muller, Havertz, Gundogan, Kroos. The list just goes on and on. But they're playing the current world champs in France, who, they can almost one-up them with the talent that they've got. Mbappe, Griezmann, Kante, Pogba, just to name a few. And now they can add Benzema to the list. Finally, he's back playing international football for France. First time, 5-6 years, something like that, fellas?
Long time.
Yeah, it's been a long, long time since he got into a bit of drama with his best mate, Valbuena. All right, we'll go back to you again on this one, George. How are you liking the chances of Germany and France?
Yeah, it's no denying they're the two European heavyweights, aren't they? In this group, and they're both looking to kind of make that statement by getting that win. Obviously, it's at the Allianz Arena in Munich, so obviously you'd think that gives the Germans the advantage. But I'm a massive fan of. I love nicknames in football, but see, my pronunciation's fine here. So Les Bleus, they're unbeaten in their last 5 games against. Well, this will be the test. Die Mannschaft, as the Germans are affectionately known. But no, so yeah, they've won 3 of those as well. They're the last 3, I believe. And in the 30 games they've played since winning the World Cup, France, they've scored in 25 of them and conceded in just 15 of them. And in all of those 30, they've only conceded more than 1 goal in 5. So they don't know how to keep things very tight and resolute. But yeah, France, they've only lost 1 of 4 competitive meetings against Germany since June 1986. So it seems like France do have the edge in this fixture. As we all know, they lost recently, somewhat of an anomaly. Lost 2-0 at home to Finland. It was only a friendly, so obviously there was no importance to it, but it was a bit of a kind of an eye-opener, as it were. But they've been in strong form of late. So since then, they've won 6 of their 7 games, drawing the other, and they've only lost 3 of their 41 most recent fixtures in all competitions. So I'm interested to see with France, though, because there's obviously a lot of drama going on at the moment between Giroud and Kylian Mbappe that's allegedly not even been resolved yet. So it's going to be interesting to see how that affects the squad. I'm not one who thinks it will have a massive impact, but it'll be interesting to see kind of who starts. You expect it to be Kylian Mbappe, but obviously
is that a thing?
Sort of
they're tossing up between who should start between those two.
Well, no, I wouldn't say it's who'd start between them, but it's whether they actually can play in the same team.
Okay.
Not because position-wise, just because they're not getting on, allegedly. Obviously, Giroud's chasing down that all-time international top goal scorer that Henry currently holds, and I think he said something about he was annoyed that people weren't passing to him, and Mbappe took offence to that and came out and said he shouldn't have attacked us. And yeah, so it's all going on. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to kind of see what Deschamps opts to do, really. But looking a bit further into Germany, obviously it's Joachim Löw's last tournament, but he's presided over a couple of devastating and really bad results in recent months. As you know, Germany, they lost 6-0 to Spain in the Nations League, and as we all know, they lost 2-1 at home to North Macedonia in World Cup qualifying. And in fact, that one against Macedonia was the first time they'd lost a European Championship home qualifier for 2 decades. You know, it was one hell of an upset. But yeah, they followed up that defeat with a disappointing 1-1 draw against Denmark in the first warm-up game for this competition, the Euros, before a far more pleasant experience in their, they beat Latvia 7-1, but again, it's Latvia, and all due respect to them. I know Nigel absolutely loves them, but they're nothing to brag about. So,
I am Latvian too. So
yeah. No, France is a much, much bigger task to deal with than Latvia, obviously. So, France, they've got a plethora of attacking and defensive talent. It's just insane, the strength and depth that they've got. But yeah, Germany have scored more than 1 goal in a single game against France just once in the last 6 meetings. You know, they do tend to struggle against the French. But on the plus side, in terms of the competition, they have reached at least the semi-final stage in the last 3 European Championships, but they've not won it since '96. So, you know, they've got good pedigree in this competition. And kind of looking at the game as a whole, yeah, 2 of the last 6 meetings between these countries have seen both teams score, so they don't often both get on the score sheet. Yeah, and like I said, France got that fantastic record. But the Germans are going to be up for this, given this Joachim Löw's last tournament before stepping down, and what he's done for that country as a whole is just incredible. You know, he's been brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But despite that, I don't see them beating France at all. So I like France to go on and win the whole tournament, as obviously we've covered previously. And I think they'll at least get a draw here in what will probably be a tense match. But I think just they've got Germany's number, the quality's there, current reigning world champions. You know, Germany aren't the team that they were, sort of say maybe 4 to 6 years ago, where they were just an absolute machine. They're a little bit inconsistent. They can be got at, and I just think France have just got so much quality. So I was very surprised at looking at the odds. Again, I'll have to do a conversion because I've written this up for obviously American markets. I've got American odds, but France double chance and under 3.5 goals at -125. So in fact, if you watch Alex, will get there just before me.
180.
1.8. That's it. There you go. Look, there you go. The man with the odds. But yeah, so at 1.8 for France to win or draw and there to be under 4 goals in the game, I thought that was a good bet as well. So yeah, I do like that at 1.8.
Yeah, okay. There's a lot of opinion going on in the stream here. I mean, there's lots of people. I feel like we've got a few Germans here today because they are. There's certainly some people wanting to bet Germany in this one. But I don't know about you, Neil, but I was also a little bit shocked with the odds here. I thought France would maybe be a little bit more heavily favoured. I assume not so because of the home advantage for Germany. I'm not sure how big the crowd will be for Germany, but I mean, obviously there's home advantage in having a crowd, but there's also home advantage in, the other team has to travel to you. But the fact is that France have probably been in Germany for however long already, set up camp, and they'll be fresh going into this first game. I guess similar to something like Sweden and Spain, and that the advantage might come in the second and third game when other teams have had to travel back and forth between countries. But yeah, how do you see the odds on this one? Just to the naked eye, I thought France would maybe be a little bit shorter.
Yeah, it's a peculiar one. I think it's something that Nigel touched on as well, just in terms of sort of the composition of the group. Obviously, because this is this so-called group of death. Even if one of these teams comes third in the actual knockout rounds, they're 3 of the best teams in the tournament. So they would fancy their chances against anyone. But yeah, I mean, just kind of eyeballing the odds, to me, that again. I think Tony, only fools lay horses. He's mentioned as well. France are too long, and I would agree. I'm personally wary of an unders, although France, again they are they've got so much attacking talent, but at the same time Deschamps isn't kind of naturally wanting to kind of go gung ho. You saw what happened with the Netherlands. In this kind of era of football, a team that's going to win this tournament is going to be defensively sound. They're going to be well set up and well drilled. They're not going to leave spaces open. That's why, for me, I'm not really fancying Germany or the Netherlands' chances. I think they just leave too much space for teams like France to attack. So I think France could do it, and I think Germany are capable of a collapse. And again, someone like France, they could absolutely destroy them the way that Spain did. You'd like to think, any German fans maybe watching this now, that they won't set up that way, and they will have learned from that experience. But again, if you're going up against Mbappe, against Benzema, against Griezmann, you've got Pogba and like Kante. Kante is just like 10 players on the pitch against the kind of sluggish German back line. You look at Germany, they're not really the sum of their parts, because if you look at them kind of man for man, they've got a brilliant squad, they've got a lot of talent, but I think defensively they're suspect. They don't quite know exactly who's playing where. Emre Can could be playing anywhere across that back line, and but you never know. I mean, this is Germany. You would never kind of write them off. As George said, they've still got this excellent record, in the past few Euros. But I'm personally not. I'm not having on the bet on the 1x2 in this. I'll kind of watch it and play and see how it progresses. But if I was kind of pushed to be on something, I would take the odds on France, to be honest. Look at least trading out. Look at, let's say, France to win. If they score the first goal, then kind of hedging your bets and greening up from there.
I'm very surprised. Obviously, everyone a lot of people in the comments saying about going with Germany, want to head with Germany. The last 5 games between these two on German soil, France have won 3 and drawn 2. France have won every single match in the first match in a major competition. They've won. That's since the 2014 World Cup that they've won. So, and I just think the role that France are on, the current world champions, they look strong, they look solid. The only chink in the armor I can see is depending on what happens with Mbappe and Giroud, if that sort of transcends leaks into the squad, affects them. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I think Germany, there's a possible capitulation here. You know, Joachim Löw's going, and that can go one of two ways. Either your players want to play for you and send you out on a high, or they just don't really care. Like, I know it's playing for your country, but you've got to think a lot of these players have been playing for Germany and won it all. You know, so I think France have got this hunger. They want to win everything, similar to the Spain side that we saw winning the World Cup and following it up with the Euros. You know, that was their peak, and I think we're witnessing the peak of France. So, yeah, I think France are very long odds to go and win this. So I potentially agree with Neel. I mean, I do like France double chance and the unders just on previous form and obviously previous meetings and the potential that they could cancel each other out. Because that German back line is very solid. But another interesting fact as well, if Pogba and Kante start together, I think there's a ridiculous record of, I think they've never lost when those two have played in the same team. Yeah, so I'm leaning towards, I'd always be leaning towards France in this one. And yeah, so for me, either exactly as Neel said, potentially trade yourself out if France do take the lead. But I also do like that, you know, the France double chance and, you know, under 4 goals, because I think 4 goals might be a bit much to ask in this game. I see it a bit tighter than that, perhaps like a 2-0 France, in my opinion.
Yeah, nevertheless, it's going to be a very exciting game, probably the best game of the Euros so far. This Group F is going to bring a lot of entertainment to our screens. And I don't even think I mentioned at the start what the odds were. I'm sorry for everyone listening, but the odds are about 2.75 you can get for France. Germany, you can get 2.8, 2.9, and the draws at 3.3, highest odds I can see there. So it's a very, very tight betting market. Yeah, I'm kind of similar with you guys. I think I'm leaning towards France in this one. I just get the feeling the odds might drop a little heading into game time. But yeah, as Huey Boy has said, it will be a great game regardless. And massive call from Huey Boy here saying Lloris is the best keeper in the world. Don't forget. So we'll see how that goes. I
mean, I'm a Spurs fan. I mean, even I would say that's, you know, I do love him, but that's straight.
He says, I think he's talking about Germany. I was hoping you guys would get the joke, but
he's the best keeper in the world if the ball's got a bell in it, but apart from that, definitely not.
I've stitched up Huey Boy there. I assume he's referring to Neuer, but I thought you guys would cotton on to that joke, but that's all right. You guys are a bit slow today. So that's the 2 games in the Group of Death tomorrow. Now we are going to move on to Wednesday's games. What was that?
From the Group of Death to the Group of Shite.
Oh my word! Don't hold back, Neel.
This is Group B, isn't it? Finland, Russia. They're not the worst, are they? Denmark and Belgium, Finland. I mean, I feel like
the group's not the worst, but I mean, I don't think this is going to be a spectacle, to be honest. I mean, but it will be interesting to see how this plays out. Obviously, because of what happened with the Denmark game, you know, I think the Finland players kind of went. You know, they also went through a kind of roller coaster of emotions, and it'll be a surreal feeling for them because it was their first ever tournament win. It's a huge thing for the country, for the players, you know, a kind of huge source of pride, but obviously tainted with what happened as well. And they're coming up against Russia, you know, and it's going to be in St. Petersburg. It's not going to be an easy game for the Finns, but it's not. I don't think it's going to be a walkover for Russia either. You know, they're both kind of 2 functional teams, but you know, rather limited. I mean, particularly with Russia. Although Russia have talent, they've got talent in that midfield. They've got Cheryshev, they've got Golovin, you know, they've got Moranchuk. They've got you know decent players there. But you know, essentially the aim is, you know, to get like an old age pensioner Zirkov, you know, just lump the ball forward down the wing up to Zuba, you know, just batter it home, and that's going to be their sort of plan A, B, C, and D. And I think, you know, Finland might be wise to that, so I think they could struggle. So one angle I had, which was quite interesting actually, and it surprised me because sort of delving into the stats for this one. So the bet I'm going to have on this is actually on a corners handicap, and so kind of looking through the stats on this and taking the context of the game as well. You know, it's in St. Petersburg, it's in Russia. Finland already have those three points. They would be quite happy to kind of grind out a draw. So sort of going over sort of the last, let's say the games across 2020, 2021, Russia sort of averaging around 5 corners themselves, per game, around 2.1 against. Finland only averaging about 3.2 corners a game, 5.5 against them as well. And actually in the Denmark game, obviously, you can't take this as indicative of how a normal game is played, but they didn't have any corners against Denmark. In a recent game against Bulgaria, no corners against them, none against Italy, and only 1 corner in an away game against Greece as well. So this is all from this calendar year, I believe. So, considering they play this kind of 4-4-2, they have kind of Timo Pukki up top, and you would expect. I expected that they actually would have got more corners than that with the kind of style of play that they have. But according to the stats, that doesn't really show up. So yeah, the play I'm going for here is Russia on a -3 corner handicap. That's at evens. I do like the price on that. I think with the context of the game, maybe the Finland players will kind of sort of naturally kind of flatten out. It's understandable, after kind of going through those highs in the last game. That was kind of a cup final for them. So I expect kind of Russia to maybe not create much, but again keep trying this sort of plan A and grind away with territory and possession and definitely pick up more corners than Finland.
Yeah. Okay. I like it, mate. I like it. And the odds on this one, I once again forgot to mention, about 1.65, 1.7 for Russia. The draw's 3.85, as high as that on Unibet. And Finland are hovering around that 6.2 mark there.
Yeah,
Very.
I think Russia are way too short here. If you consider what's happened today, in terms of how close together Russia and Finland are, that's far closer than Spain and Sweden. And Finland could execute the same game plan, and Russia could struggle. They could really struggle to break them down. So I definitely wouldn't be taking Russia at that price.
And I didn't watch the whole Denmark game, obviously. I watched it when it resumed after the Eriksen incident. And just watching that, it didn't, I know this is, extenuating circumstances with what had happened, but Denmark didn't really look like they were going to punch a hole through Finland, if you get what I mean. They didn't look all that threatening. And I know I've only probably watched, half the game, but and Russia, on the other hand, you would say are probably less of an attacking threat than Denmark. So
I
could potentially see Finland. You could even take the angle once again of a Finland 1-0 victory, or low score and a Finland win, something like that.
Quite possibly. In terms of the stats, Finland had 1 shot on target, 1 goal. Clinical. Denmark had 23 shots on goal, again, and 6 on target. So it was, if you just looked at the pure stats alone, if you had no idea of the context of the game or what happened with the sort of the suspension halfway through, you would look at that and think Finland got very lucky. So,
as well as that, though, Russia. As well as that, Russia have 1 shot on target against Belgium, but they faced 4 shots on target and let in 3 of them.
That's a great point. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, it's weird because obviously I actually think there's value in the overs here. Despite everything that we've just said, you've got to think a win here would obviously all but assure Finland's progression to the knockouts, and that continues a trend since 2016 that saw 4 of the 5 debutants progress from the group stage. And all 9 nations who won in the opening round of fixtures in the last edition qualified via a top 2 spot. So they're going to obviously want to join that kind of crew. But they have lost their last 4 meetings with Russia, and they conceded over 2.5 goals in all of them. But obviously, I think they're probably hoping they've kind of closed the gap in qualities. That the last meeting was in 2009. But yeah, Russia, only 3 teams have actually lost their group opener and progressed in the last 2 tournaments. And only once since a format change. And each of them won both their remaining games. So it's not impossible for Russia. I think obviously they're the better side here, undoubtedly. But Yeah, there've been over 2.5 goals scored in Russia's last 5 games, and as Neil's already mentioned, Finland had 1 shot, faced 22 against Denmark, but still managed to win. And like I said, Russia faced 4 shots on target and let in 3 of them. And since games resumed in 2020, as just after the pandemic, as games came back, Russia have conceded in 11 of their 14, and it's essentially an away game for Finland, as it has been held in Russia. And in Finland's games since they returned in 2020, they've scored in 8 of their 9. So if you look at kind of the fact that Russia do concede and Finland obviously that 1 shot and they scored from it, and given what's on the line, it could go one of 2 ways. It could either be very tight, but I don't think there's a lot of quality here. And I think if anyone gets a chance, I think they score. So for me, Russia need to get the win to obviously get back on track to try and qualify. Finland, in absolute dreamland, if they can get a win, obviously it more than likely means they're going to be in the next round. So I think this could be one of those games where we do see quite a few goals. But the fact that, for me, the reason why is the price was 2.38 that I found. I believe you can actually get better now on Betfair. That's not sure again about the conversion, just having a look through here, because that's what I saw earlier. But yes, you can get it at 2.45 on Betfair. And I just think that's too high. I think it should be a little bit closer. So purely as a value punt, and with some of those stats behind it, I think over 2.5 goals is a bit of value. Obviously, I wouldn't go absolutely mental on it, but for a bit of interest, that's probably where I put my money.
Yeah, okay. It could be quite a fiery clash too. These guys are. I would guess they're local bordering rivals too. I don't know if there is a rivalry between Finland and Russia, but I might have just made that up. But considering they're close by, maybe there's a little rivalry there. Could be a heated encounter. You never know. All right. Well, by the way, Neel, I'm sure you know, but you've gone very dark all of a sudden.
Yeah,
broken it again. That's all right.
This is the face I was born with. What can I do about it?
Yeah, it's beautiful, mate. You still look beautiful. All right. Turkey, Wales. I don't really have much written up about this one, but obviously Turkey coming off that 3-0 loss to Italy in the first game. So they're going to they played on Friday night, so they've got a 5-day turnaround into this one, whereas Wales will only have a 4-day turnaround after it was a 1-1 draw with Switzerland from memory. So big game, massive game in Group A here. I mean, only Italy have managed to nudge ahead there with the first up win against Turkey. So this game could go a long way to deciding who makes it through to the qualifying stages. Neel, I'll go to you, mate. Any thoughts on this one?
Sure, yeah.
And I'll interrupt quickly. I'll get the odds out there for the first time. I'll actually do my job. Turkey are at about 2.4, draws around 3.1, 3.2, and Wales you can get as high as 3.45. Neel, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I feel like we're saying this about every game. Every game is a massive game. Because of this third place, and every team has a realistic chance. Even with just one win, with potentially getting through. So, yeah, I mean, but especially, for Wales, because they drew that game. If they get a win against Turkey, they're pretty confident they could be through. And again, Turkey. They have to get this win. Really, it's a must-win for them. I'm rooting for all the home nations. I want all the home nations to do well. And I was rooting for Wales in their match against Switzerland. But the truth be told, they were awful. They were lucky to get that draw, and they didn't deserve it. And they were very fortunate. So it was a great result, and it gave them kind of confidence doing that. But apart from like a little spell at the beginning of the game, they had a shot or two, and then when they came back into it, they didn't deserve to draw that. And I think again, looking at the markets, looking at let's say sort of casual money coming in for Wales, people looking at the star names, thinking, all right, they're going to have Bale, they're going to have Ramsey, Dan James up top as well. Kiefer Moore scored in the last game. But I don't see it playing out that way. I think the other thing is, Turkey were, just comprehensively outplayed by Italy. But I think they also shot themselves in the foot as well. I think they were far too negative. I think they could have tried to be a little bit more expansive and try and cause Italy problems. They had a couple of chances, and they had a good chance in the second half. Gilma had a great chance, but I think they'll have too much for Wales. I do think there's a reason why a lot of people tipped up Turkey as a dark horse for this tournament. Again, in the run up to the tournament, they've had lots of kind of games where they've done interesting things, and I think again, their defence will be will be tough to break down for Wales. Yes, Bell's on the pitch, and again, I'm a huge fan of his. But if you look at his record, he has scored goals this season. But again, if you look at who he's scored against, again with the back line with Demiral and Soyuncu for Turkey, he might struggle there. Is Kiefer Moore, again, he's kind of relying on his physicality. He's very effective at what he does. But again, is he going to get much joy against that Turkish defence? I can't really see it, and I think Turkey will have a good chance of winning this. One thing that does concern me, though, there is a stat on Turkey. So in their last 5 of their last 6 European Championship games, they've had under 2.5 shots on target. There's stats on Wales as well. Generally their games do go unders. They do keep the score lines low. So I'm not expecting goals in this game. Again, the context of it, every game's a big match, but with this, again, it's very tight. It's kind of on a knife edge. Again, I'm going by price. You could just back Turkey. I was contemplating backing Turkey on a draw no bet, which is around evens. You can get a little bit more than evens at some bookies, which I think is a good price. But I've gone for Turkey to win to 0. It's at 3.75 at red zone as the best price at the moment, which is some way ahead of the rest of the market. So in terms of, I don't know, in terms of anyone who's not familiar with the approach I take with my value betting, it kind of relates to Trademate as well. If you've got an outlier in the market that's let's say 20% higher than the rest, you factor in obviously you factor in a bit of margin for the bookmaker, but there's a bit of value there. I think it kind of fits with what I'm looking for here. I can't see Wales winning this game. I think they could sneak a draw. It might be a low scoring draw, but I fancy Turkey to win this.
Yeah, I love what you said there, mate, about finding outliers in the market, because I think if
maybe you could put it up, Alex. It might be on there. So
I think you said Turkey to win to 0, right?
Turkey to win to 0. Yeah, have you got it there?
Yeah, 3.75 at red zone there. I think that's a really valuable strategy that we haven't mentioned too much before. That if you have decent knowledge about a sport or a team or whatever, and you see something that you like, let's just say in this case Turkey versus Wales, and you think, I really like the chances of Turkey to win to 0, and then you go and look at the odds and you see that there is a decent outlier in the market. As you can see, the market here, you've got most averaging around 3.5, and then you see a bookie like Red Zone sitting at 3.75, which is not amazing, but it's decently away from the rest of the market. I mean, even you could take 5.25 if you like that on Wales to win to 0, and at worst you might even be just looking at a neutral EV bet, just because they're such an outlier. Yeah, it might move in your favor and you'll definitely have a plus EV bet, but worst comes to worst, you're going to have a neutral EV bet, or maybe a slightly negative EV bet. So I really do like what you're saying there, Neel.
Yeah, just I'd like to quickly add to that. Yeah, if anyone's watching this, and look, I've got friends. I try and explain what I do to them, and I've got one friend, Harry. I don't know if he's going to be listening to this, but he only bets with Betfair. He only bets with Betfair, and I keep saying to him, all right, fine. You can. He always bets on like 3-2, 4-3, 5-all, ridiculous score lines. I said, that's do that, but shop around. Just find the best price for it. If you find the best price for every bet that you do, you might come out ahead, but you're going to be close to scratch. Just by blindly doing that, just if the outliers in the market, if you're getting kind of 10%, 20% value on bets like that, that can form part of your strategy, and that's why sort of price is so important. It's not about will that bet necessarily win over the long term. If you're getting the best price, you're going to be ahead. I think that's a really key thing. If anyone isn't doing that already, that's a must.
Yeah, no, I love that, mate. I think anyone who couldn't give two hoots about, being a profitable gambler over time and is just doing this for fun. If you literally every time you wanted to bet for fun and took the best price you could find, at worst you're probably going to lose a couple $100 over time. So, and you're having fun at the same time. So
yeah, exactly.
Really good point, George. Did you have anything to say about Turkey Wales here, mate, or did you want to leave?
Yeah, No, I've only made a few brief notes on it, but it's mostly kind of aligned with what Neel said, really. Turkey have won by a 2-goal margin in 2 of their last 4 competitive games, immediately following a loss, and that's where they won 3 and drawn 1. But from taking with that, I do, just like Neel, I lean towards Turkey in this. They were good against, I say good, but they were all right. They held their own against Italy for, say, the first half, but they still looked outclassed. They were just managed to obviously keep the scoreline there, but then they just fell apart. But Wales are not Italy. Wales are pretty tragic if you take Bale and Ramsey out of that side. There's absolutely no reason really that they should be anywhere near a big international tournament if they haven't got those two. Those two single-handedly are the main players that they go to. And just like Neel said, the trend is that they do tend to go with the unders. Around 76.5% of Wales' competitive games since the start of 2019 have produced under 2.5 goals. Turkey have produced under 2.5 shots on target in 5 of their last 6 European Championship games. But I was kind of looking at another sort of angle as well in terms of fouls. Turkey have committed 13 fouls in 9 of their last 14 competitive games in all of their last 5. Meanwhile, Wales have been fouled 13 times in 7 of their last 11. And the referee for this one is Arthur Diaz, Portuguese, absolute madman. He awards around 27 fouls per game and hands out a lot of cards as well. But I do see Turkey committing more here. I just think they're going to be far more intense. I think they're going to want to win that ball back quickly, and we all know that tends to lead to silly fouls. And so I looked on Unibet, and for Turkey to commit over 12.5 fouls, something they've done, like I said, in 9 of their last 14, but in all of their last 5, it was at 1.75 on Unibet, and I thought that was a potential play, particularly with the one thing that swung it for me was the fact that it's Arthur Diaz, the Portuguese referee who's in charge. So I potentially have a play on that. I would like a little more at the price. I definitely wouldn't go any lower. It wouldn't be a big play, but for interest, that's definitely an angle that I'd be on. But in terms of other things, I really like Neel's potential price of Turkey to win to 0. I think all the reasoning that he's put there, and that's a brilliant price. So I might even have a nibble on that myself.
Oh, nice. I like it. Nibble, nibble, nibble. All right. Italy versus Switzerland. Fuck, sometimes I wish I just didn't talk. Italy versus Switzerland to finish off today. I think so far, just a shout out to everyone on the stream. Some great comments so far, and obviously a shout out to Neel and George. Tremendous stuff so far. There's plenty of bets to chew over here. But the great news is we've still got one more game to go through here. Italy versus Switzerland. Italy, like we've said many times, the resounding favourites in this Group A with that 3-0 win over Turkey. Switzerland, the draw with Wales last time out, 1-1. So, Neel, what have you got to say about the old Italians and the Swiss here?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, before the tournament started, I think I think both myself and George mentioned about Italy, being potential dark horses for the tournament. They put in a really impressive performance against Turkey. I think it will be sort of trickier than people think against Switzerland. They're going to come up against a team that's a little bit stubborn. They're going to have to kind of break them down. Well, one thing that was interesting, I mean, Italy, I don't have the stat up here right now, but Italy took a lot of shots in that game against Turkey, and I'm expecting them to do again. I think there was a line on Sky Bet. I'm in two minds about it. I've seen it sort of posted up. I can't say it's my tip. I did see it somewhere, but it interested me. I think it was sort of Italy 16 plus shots is 2.75 at Sky Bet, which I thought was quite interesting. I think they will get a lot of chances again. I mean, what I like about this Italy team, it's a bit like the 2012 team, and they are a bit more expansive than what you're used to. I think people have this perception of Serie A and Italian football is what it was in the 90s, and it's catenaccio and it's cynical, and but actually this is a really sort of interesting team. This Italy side, I don't think they sit back, so they will keep going and they'll kind of keep going for it, and they've got competition for places up front as well. So again, if Berardi's playing, he's got Chiesa breathing down his neck. And you've got Belotti as well, sort of just waiting to come in if Immobile doesn't step up. So that's a really healthy thing. I think, going on what Shane said here in the chat about this trend about high scoring halves landing more than first, looking at what happened in the Turkey game, again, could it be a case of Italy sort of struggling to break down Switzerland? And then Switzerland's kind of gradually just tiring and is kind of wearing away. So I think that could be one potential strategy for a half-time, full-time. And again, with the shots angle as well. It's a shame this podcast because we have to do it 2 days ahead because something I am doing a lot of, and if you're following my Twitter is these kind of prop bets that John L mentioned. Mainly sort of passes are the ones that I look at. But again, if anything else kind of strikes me as value, that's something there as well. So generally, what you find, especially with passes, is the opposition is kind of generally underestimated, and the bookies tend to price these on averages. They don't look in huge detail into who the teams are actually playing. So again, you can have especially in league football, how much it translates to international football is slightly different, but you might have a team who's, let's say, lower ranked or kind of lower league, lower down the table team, but actually playing, quite a lot of kind of possession football. So someone like Brighton, for example, their players are consistently undervalued for passes, depending on who they're playing. So that could be an angle, but I don't have anything to kind of tell you on that yet because they haven't got the prices up, or at least they haven't last time I checked. But that would be something I'd be looking at. And again, it's a boring bet, but have you got the odds up there, Alex, on Italy?
Just the 1x2, mate.
Yeah.
So Italy are at about 1.6, draws 4.1, and Switzerland 6.57.
Yeah, and again, it's a boring one for me. But sometimes, this match day, looking at, I did look at lots of things, kind of delving into lots of numbers, but actually, the simple bets are the ones that have stood out. So, we lost George. I bored him to tears.
Yeah, I think he just got a bit over it.
He's back. Yeah. Sorry, George. I thought I bored you to sleep there.
It was connection issues. I thought, the podcast has just dropped.
But yeah, so again, Italy to win to 0. Italy to win to 0. If you want to get Italy on a -1 handicap, I think they could have a few goals in them. Again, as much as I wasn't impressed by Wales, I wasn't really that impressed by Switzerland either. There's something about them. I think it's Switzerland and Austria. I don't know what it is, but every kind of international tournament, they have good players. They've got a decent team, but they never quite do much really with that. And and I think this Italy team again could just go rampant. They could get a few goals. They're going to be really, really tough to break down. And that could be something to look at. The shots angle, like I mentioned as well. Some kind of to play on the shots. You could do a bet builder on that. You could have a look at the line on Sky, which is 2.75 for 16 shots. I do like that as well. If you're feeling brave, you could do a kind of half-time draw, Italy full-time as well. So there's different ways you could play it. I'd want to get Italy on side in some form or another. You could look at the goal scorer bets. Something you could look at. What was interesting, looking at the goal scorer bets, and to be honest, today's been a bit of a blur. I can't even remember who scored all the goals. But going back to the other games, so you've had quite a few defenders actually getting the man of the match. So again, in the Austria game, so Alaba, he got the star of the match, as UEFA call it. He was 10-1 going off in that one. Denzel Dumfries for the Netherlands was a 40-1 shot on that. And in the last game, so for Italy, Spinazzola actually got the star of the match there, and he went off at 33-1. So you could look at, again, an Italian defender to get that. That could be sort of big price, sort of generous odds. The panel, the UEFA panel, obviously are considering defenders for this. It's not overly skewed in favour of forwards. I think maybe that's the nature of this tournament so far, because there have been sort of some conservative games. This kind of low block, kind of counter-attacking style that a lot of teams have is going to lead to that. And again, look, Switzerland. If you were watching the Wales game, how Wales got their chances, it was through that kind of aerial threat through Kiefer Moore. They were causing them problems on set pieces, so that could be a possible angle for you. I'm not necessarily saying these aren't kind of plays that I'm making, but if you wanted to have a kind of big odds bet, I wouldn't put you off exploring that and delving into that further. But yeah, I mean, for me, Italy, it's a no-brainer. I think, you could even try combining that into a double. Italy to win to 0 and Turkey to win to 0. You get quite generous odds on that.
Nice, mate. Just a couple of questions here while you were talking. I'm not going to try to pronounce this fella's name, but he says, any tips for betting tomorrow? I mean, you've come to the right place, mate. There's probably about 20,000 of them if you rewind. And I can't see this name. Woot Fearens has said, is this match betting or betting with another strategy? I just joined. Well, mate, this is certainly not match betting. I would say this is more of a value betting strategy. So if you want to learn more about value betting, we've got lots of videos on our channel. Just type in value betting, and I'm sure you can find someone that explains exactly the kind of stuff we talk about. So, George, Italy, Switzerland, mate, did you have anything you wanted to say about that, or has Neel covered it mostly?
A few bits, but obviously, because I think I dropped out, didn't I, of the call when you were discussing a few points. But I noticed you were tempted by the Italy win to 0, which again interested me. I was having a look earlier whether the price is still there. It's not a bookie that I think I've used before. I've seen other people use it, but it's with Novibet, and it was Italy to win, both teams to score no, and that was at 2.67, which is obviously a little bit higher than the price I could see on the odds checker for winning to 0. But yeah, I kind of did like the look of that one, particularly when you look at how bad Switzerland's record is on Italian soil. So I think they've just won just once in all 24 head-to-heads, drawing 5 and losing 18. But that win did, interesting fact for you, the win did come at this very stadium back in 1982. Switzerland have lost 4 and drawn 2 of their last 6 internationals versus countries currently ranked 10th or better, and they failed to score in 3 of those. So yeah, I think Italy, if they can get another clean sheet here, it would put them within 1 game of equaling their existing all-time record of 30 games unbeaten. But yeah, I'd be worried in terms of goals here. I think Switzerland are a much better organised side than Turkey, but the fact is, it's going to be in Rome's Olympic Stadium. They're going to be in high spirits after, absolutely demolishing Turkey. So it's difficult to kind of see, that they might just ride that wave of momentum from that game, and you could easily, obviously, see those goals flying in. But it's the first time Italy in 39 games have scored more than 2 goals at Euro finals. They don't tend to score more than 2. We all know about Italy. They're kind of quite resolute, shut up shop, defend at 1-0 or 2-0. So it's quite surprising to see them go to so rampant against Turkey. But yeah, for me, the only potential picks here is, we spoke on the previous podcast, is an overview of this tournament, our favourite potential outrights. And I think both me and Neel earmarked potentially Ciro Immobile was far too high to be the top goal scorer at this tournament at around 20s. I mean, obviously he scored in the first game. He's 2.6 to score here at any time. And I do think Italy are going to absolutely batter Switzerland in terms of shots and the stats. So no, I thought there was potential play there. It might be a little bit low, potentially a bit higher. But yeah, for me, I think my favourite one would be Italy winning and both teams to score no, or Italy win 2-0. And potentially those shot markets that Neel was talking about as well, because they landed obviously with ease in that game against Switzerland. Because it's all Italy had a shot difference of +14 in that first half alone. And that's the biggest margin in a European final since 2004. And they've got a win rate in Rome of 81%. The Italian national team, they're solid when they play in Rome. So yeah, those shot angles look very good to me.
All right, love it, gents. Just had
one quick thing, just that George was saying. Just again, that's a really good point. So he mentioned both teams to score no market. So sometimes you can actually get better value on that market. So it's worth having a look and just kind of comparing the two lines. Similar to like if you're doing a draw no bet or a Asian 0, sometimes you get better value on one. It's the same thing, but you might get a few ticks more.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're combining it, both teams to score no and Italy to win, as a bet builders always going to look a little bit more muggy than going to bet Italy to win 2-0. So it's probably good for keeping your accounts a little bit longer. Nick Phillips says, do you think Wales can go all the way this time, as they have a better team than when they got to the semis last Euros?
No.
Who wants to take this one? Because there's been a lot of rubbishing Wales this time. So
I think they had a better team. I mean, they've got young talents coming through like Dan James and Brooks and Wilson, but I think as a collective team, I think they were better in 2016 personally.
Okay.
Yep, same. Agreed.
All right. Well, sorry, Nick. These guys are a bit cranky. It's getting towards.
Well, we wish you well. I mean, I'd love it if Wales got through. I can't see it.
Yeah. No, fair enough. All right. I think that'll do for today, gents. That was you've just gotten through a mountain of work there. That was terrific. But if we had to summarize and give out our best bets for tomorrow's games, and I guess we can include Wednesday's games too, for Tuesday and Wednesday, where would you take me, George?
Portugal win and under 3.5 match goals. That was evens on Unibet.
All right, love it. And Neel, what would you go with, mate?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to kind of banker, I think again Italy to win, some kind of being on Italy in some form. That both teams score no, and then the Turkey one for the price, I think it's too long.
So yeah, Turkey and Italy to win 2-0, basically.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. And I think it's really interesting. I was kind of surprised when I asked Nigel on Thursday or whenever we recorded the outright preview about I guess paths to the final, and whether you'd rather have your team like a France or a Germany or a Portugal have this hardened path, had to work pretty hard to get all the way to the final because they've had a tough group, or whether you'd rather have a team like Italy who, they've got a pretty easy group here. They'll probably make it to the quarterfinals. I believe they play the second place of Group C, I think, in the round of 16. So that's going to be like a North Macedonia, probably not, but Ukraine maybe, I think. I could be maybe. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's I think it's an interesting question. Where do you guys come down on that? Do you think you'd rather have a hardened path, or you'd rather just breeze through to the quarters and kind of save your energy? Because especially like Italy, mate, they're at home for 3 games. They can almost, in terms of some of the other teams, they can kind of kick their feet up and kind of smash up some of these minnows and make their way to the quarters.
Well, I mean, you've got to beat these teams at some point. Like, I don't know. I get what you mean by you've got to get to the quarters, but
they're going to be fresh.
Yeah, you can be fresh, but I mean, it depends how deep you want to look into. I mean, because if you've beaten some hard teams on the way there, you feel momentum. If you feel it's up to you, and I mean, you feel you're there. Where I think it can be a bit of a shock when if you've breezed past a few teams, and then all of a sudden you're met with someone who's as good, if not a bit better than you on the day. It can be counterproductive at times. I don't really have a preference. I think it's probably because I'm English. It doesn't really matter who we play. We get disappointed in the end anyway. So I'd sort of like We'll play whoever, as and when.
Yeah. All right. Well, unless you have some thoughts.
Sorry,
on
that wasn't the answer you were looking for, was it?
No. I always sided on the like. I'd rather my team have a really nice run. Not have to face too many. It's not the fact that not to face too many tough teams. It's more that I'd love them rested and ready to go once it gets to the finals, and not have had to fight hard to beat a Germany or a France or something like that. Be nice rested, but yeah. That's just
I mean, I'm with you, Alex, in to some extent. I mean, let's say with England and the World Cup run. I mean, to get to semi-final, we played Sweden, we played Colombia, good teams, but that gave us a good chance. And even Croatia in the semi-final, I think if you play that game 100 times, I think England would have won it maybe 40 out of 100. So we had a chance, and that's one thing you could level at Italy is. They've got this fantastic run, and they've been on this really impressive run of games. But in their qualifying group, they didn't really have anyone that challenging. They haven't really been tested. They haven't played many of the top nations. I mean, we'll see how it transpires this tournament. Maybe if it's too early for them. They've got the Nations League, I think, in October as well. So we'll kind of see how they do there. But yeah, as a fan, I'd want to sort of have the easiest route possible to get as far as possible, because that's what you remember, ultimately. But I mean, yeah, like George said, let's say for us, it doesn't look good. If England win the group, we're going to have a tough game. If we come second, we'll still have a tough game. It's not going to be easy. You just have to kind of celebrate it while you can.
All right, cool. And I forgot to give out my best bet for tomorrow. I know I've had some. I got very close with my Sweden pick yesterday. So people are just screaming out for my best bet for tomorrow. And you know what? I think the French are just too big for tomorrow. I reckon you'll get a bit of EV there. I reckon if you back France now, I'm not sure what the best odds are. I think it was like 2.7, maybe 2.8, something like that for France. I think that is a little bit too big for a very classy side in France there. So all my research, fellas, has led me to France. So that was a joke for anyone out there. It's we'll call it the mug bet of the day. All right, you can find George at C George Gamble, and you can also find him at George_CGG. He's so good. He's got 2 Twitters, and you can find Neel, who is at the top right-hand corner of your screen. Yes, Neel is a human. You can find him at MyBettorLife on Twitter, and he also has a bloody brilliant blog at MyBettorLife.com where you can kind of follow his journey as a pro sports bettor. I don't think he's posted much lately, but you can follow it up.
That's part of the journey. Is just always being busy and just not having time to update it. So that's That's
you can follow his journey up until about October last year, and then who knows what happened after that. And we will be back on Wednesday night, so after the Italy-Switzerland game, and then we'll be previewing the games, whatever games are on the next day. So we'll have a little break and we'll be back on Wednesday night. Thank you everyone for joining in. There's been some great viewership today. It's been great having you all along. Some terrific comments, except for this last one here. I mean, Maddie, just go for a jog, mate. Seriously. And well, I can't remember where it's at. Yeah, subscribe. If everyone could give it a thumbs up, that would be superb. Subscribe to the podcast, and if you've missed today's and tuning in now, I'll release it as a podcast in a couple of hours. And yeah, let's just call it a day.
Are you okay? Are you honestly? I feel like an intervention is needed because, just give it a like if you want. It'd be great if you could just watch it later.
I'm just sick of saying
those flashy lights are just turning you slowly insane, right?
The what? Sorry.
I think those flashing lights in the background are just turning you slowly insane.
Yeah,
he's recording this just outside the entrance of a strip joint. You can just tell.
He's just distracted.
Yeah, I've got Nigel.
As soon as that camera goes off, the cap comes off.
You can't hear, but you can. If you just listen closely, you can hear Nigel singing Roxanne in the background.
As long as it's not on the pole, we're fine.
Oh my goodness,
Right.
that is a
And on that
sight
note-
that I cannot unsee. Sorry, Nigel, your reputation just dropped a little bit as people imagine you on a poll, but that's all right. We'll call it a day. Thank you once again, gents, and we'll see you on Wednesday.
Cheers,
Take care.
Alex. Cheers, guys.
See you.